Hey, yo, what's up, YouTube, man? It's your boy, Ashton Jackson, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the winners that I have from the offseason so far, what they've been doing in mini camp. Going to be talking about a few players, talk about their importance for the season, and that most of these guys I'm going to name in today's video, they have to keep it up for training camp, just for their career's sake. So for some of these guys, because some of the guys that I'm talking about might be in the roster bubble type guys, and things of that nature. So before we hop into the video, I would appreciate it if you guys would like the video, subscribe if you're new, comment, and share my video with anyone who you think will enjoy my content. So hopping straight into it, the first player for me that I'm going to list off, this is not basically in order, I'm just giving you guys names, but the first player I'm going to be talking about is George Pickens. I do believe that George Pickens right now is having a really good mini camp, and he has been definitely as advertised from what I'm hearing and what's being written and what's being tweeted about. George Pickens has been doing a really great job, being a great teammate, making the catches, making the big plays, catching everything in practice. He does a really great job of what he's been doing. You know, all of the talk about him being a terrible, like a locker room cancer. Dak Prescott spoke about it. Who else did? CeeDee Lamb spoke about a lot of his offensive teammates have been speaking about George Pickens and how great he has been as a teammate. And then for my own sake, when I'm talking about George Pickens, I think when you're around people that are like-minded like George Pickens were in any profession, they just want to win. I think either you're drawn to that or you're not drawn to it. There's just natural people who that want to win, and there's people that, okay, that go with the flow and just okay with whatever happens. I think George Pickens, he's one of those guys that he puts in the time, he puts in the hard work and dedication, and he wants to see it get paid off in playoff wins and regular season success and things of that nature. So he's just a guy that wants to win. I'm not worried about George Pickens too much as long as he's healthy. Dak Prescott is healthy. This offensive line can block, and we're dialing up the right place for George Pickens. I truly believe that George Pickens is going to be a great offseason addition for the Dallas Cowboys, and he will win us some games down the line. I'm not worried about it at all. I think he's going to be a great player. The second player, this is the end of the roster type of guy. Not in the roster type of guy, but a roster bubble. If he doesn't step up in training camp, he doesn't have the same success, he will more than likely get replaced, and we will most likely add a veteran or trade for somebody in his position. And that is Kaiir Elam. I think he's going to be a really good player for the Dallas Cowboys. I really do believe that. Just from, again, what's been tweeted, what's been talked about from Nick Harris, John Machota, you know, Patrick Nosey Walker, you know, the guys that are on the ground, they are seeing every day the practices and everything like that, you know, Kaiir Elam has been making a lot of plays, PBUs, always, you know, he's always been around the ball making plays. So if Kaiir Elam is a guy that steps up for you, which I believe he can, that's great. But if he doesn't maintain and keep up with this success, this could be potentially a guy that gets replaced by maybe a Stephon Gilmore, Jair Alexander. Maybe we trade for Jalen Ramsey, whatever the case might be. But we need Kaiir Elam to step up because we definitely need him September 4th versus the Philadelphia Eagles. But you guys already know my stance on cornerback. I feel like even if Kaiir Elam steps up, DaRon Bland, we move him into the slot, he does his thing. I still do believe that we need another outside corner, because if you look at the depth chart, we only have like 4 to 5. We have 4 solid cover corner guys. We have Andrew Booth as our 5th cornerback, and we saw last season that we don't want him out there. So if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, I still will sign another outside corner, and then we'll just play football like that, and you'll have Kalen Carson, Israel Mukuamu as your depth pieces, and then you'll have veteran Kaiir Elam and DaRon Bland, and then, you know, that'd be your starting defensive back group. But Kaiir Elam has been making a ton of plays, and I really like what he's been doing. Really the running back room, but the first person I'm going to be talking about is Miles Sanders. I've been hearing he's been having a lot of burst, and he's been making some really good plays. I know that's on air, they're not tackling, so everything I am taking and I am talking about, I am doing it with a grain of salt. Sanders, for us, if you just look at the running back room, Deuce Vaughn, Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue, Miles Sanders, if you want to throw in Hunter Lepke, sure. He is the most accomplished back in there, and he was the last person out, the most recent success. If you look at that season in 2022, when the Philadelphia Eagles went to the Super Bowl the first time with Jalen Hurts and they lost, Miles Sanders was a big part of that. He had 1,300 yards running behind that offensive line. I do think we have a damn good interior offensive line with Cooper Beebe, Tyler Booker, and Tyler Smith. understanding that these guys, Cooper B has put together another good second year. Tyler Smith has to keep up his all-pro potential, and Tyler Booker has to live up to his draft status and just live up to his own name, not nobody else's name, that the position he's playing for. I do think that we're going to have a really good offensive run scheme, and a really good play calling on the offensive side of the ball. That I do think that Miles Sanders could be a guy that steps up for you, makes big plays for you later in the season. I think Javonte Williams has also been having a really good, OTAs as well. They've been rotating, but if there's a guy that I will not be shocked that will step out and can do something for you, I do think it'd be Miles Sanders, just because we've seen him play really well in the league. It hasn't been as recent because he went to Carolina, but I do think if you put him back in a winning situation, I do think that Miles Sanders can be a really good back for you. The next player that I'm going to be talking about is Joe Milton. I think everything has been advertised in terms of what everyone has been talking about. All the reporters have been saying the same thing. Joe Milton shows, his arm talent is exquisite. You just look at, he's a freak of nature, 6'5". He can throw the football at the stadium. He's just a damn good athlete. Joe Milton has been making a ton of big plays, rolling out, throwing the ball 40, 50 yards. I do think that Joe Milton is a really good quarterback, and we're going to see it at preseason. We're going to first see it at training camp in Oxnard, then we're going to see it on the preseason games. I'm very excited to see what Joe Milton's going to be in the preseason. No, I'm not saying that, he's going to take Dak Prescott's spot, but I'm just very intrigued to see that if this could be a guy that can be a starter for us and be the next person that can take Dak Prescott's job once Dak Prescott no longer wants to play in the league or no longer wants to play with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm really intrigued to see what Joe Milton can do. The next player I'm going to be talking about is undrafted free agent from Syracuse, Clark. That was a player that normally, when they are paying that much for a high prioritized undrafted free agent, they really liked him and they were possibly thinking about drafting him. And you know that we do another really good job at getting undrafted free agent type players like Hunter Lepke, Beverin Span-Ford, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Tony Romo is one of those. We do a really good job at getting undrafted free agents and bring them over in Dallas and making them solid players. Elijah Clark has been playing free safety. He has been playing in the slot, has been playing both safety positions. I really like Elijah Clark's film. I do think that he's going to be a really good player for you down the line. I do think that this could be a guy that, if we move on from a particular safety, like maybe Donovan Wilson or whatever the case might be, I do think that Elijah Clark could get some starting reps for you, and I do see him making some plays in the preseason for you. The next player I'm going to be talking about, Dallas Cowboys' one of their most hated players outside of Dak Prescott, is going to be Jalen Tolbert. Jalen Tolbert has been having a really good offseason. Now, I am tempering expectations. No, I don't think he's going to be the best wide receiver 3 in the league, but I think that is his best mainstay position. When you're allowing him when you're needing him to be wide receiver 2, or when CeeDee Lamb goes down, you want him to be wide receiver 1, I think you're going to be underwhelmed if Jalen Tolbert doesn't step up to the plate. If you're putting him expectations of Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb or prime Michael Gallup, you're going to be very underwhelmed. But if you put Cedric Wilson, Cole Beasley type of, expectations on a guy like Jalen Tolbert, just playing your role, play in the slot, be a big slot type of guy, I think Jalen Tolbert can do that. I think Jalen Tolbert can win his matchups versus, an Andrew Booth-like character. But when he plays against really good corners like Pat Surtain or Sauce Gardner or one of the better corners in the league, Jalen Ramsey, whatever the case might be, AJ Terrell, I do think that Jalen Tolbert's going to have tougher times versus those guys, But as long as we temper expectations, we understand that he has at all time has to be the wide receiver 3. That's fine. And that was a player that led the wide receiver room in touchdowns last year, right? So I do think that he can be a really good player for you. The next player I'm going to be talking about, 2 players are both in the tight end room, Jake Ferguson, Beverin Span-Ford. I've been hearing Jake Ferguson has been catching passes down the seam, been making big plays. And same goes for Beverin Span-Ford. I've been hearing that this is a guy that can potentially make the second-year jump. And this is a guy that has all the athletic tools to be a great NFL player. He's 6'7", coming out of Minnesota. People were considering moving him to play tackle. This is a damn good athlete, in my opinion. I really do think that Beverin Span-Ford can be a really good player for you. And, if he steps up, now that's an added weapon. We talk about CeeDee Lamb when healthy, that's a weapon. George Pickens being a weapon. Jonathan Mingo being a weapon. Jalen Tolbert being a weapon. Jaden Blue being another weapon. Then you got to think about Miles Sanders or Javonte Williams, somebody else coming from that running back room. And then you got to think about Jake Ferguson. If Beverly Spanford is another person you have to account for, and that Beverly Spanford can dominate underneath, down the seam, anything, have mismatches versus weaker linebackers or safeties, I think Beverly Spanford is going to be a really good player for you. If what the offense lives up to its true potential, I do think that Beverly Spanford can be another great addition to the offense. Last but not least, when we talk about Tyler Guyton, you think about all the interviews he's been talking about, taking accountability, saying he has to be a better player, nutrition has to be better, he just has to be a better player. There was a reporter that was, and no wrong at all, was trying to give him bait to see if he was going to take, any sort of excuse to ask to why he was not good in his first year. They were saying, it's a tough transition. The reporter asked, going from right to left tackle, and Tyler Guyton just said, that doesn't really matter. I have to be a better player. And I think that's what it was at the end of the day for Tyler Guyton. He has all the athletic tools to be a really good offensive player in this league. I do think that, us as fans, we have a tough time. We make it tougher on these NFL players when they already have to work out. They already have to do that. The mental preparation that it takes to be a great NFL player is bar none. It's one of the most excruciating type of professions you have to do on a day-to-day basis just to be better and for you to feed your family. Tyler Guyton understands that he has to be a better player, and the expectations that we put on him, because we lost a Hall of Famer in free agency that year, and we expected him to come in, and because he was playing that same position as a former Hall of Famer, we put that expectation for Tyler Guyton to be a Hall of Famer, all-pro type of offensive lineman coming out of the package, as opposed to if you were watching his film, if you were listening to the people that was watching his film, telling you that this was going to be a 2025 and beyond type of project. It was not going to be somebody you rip out the plastic and you put him right into position and you just get instant impact from him. That wasn't going to be the case. So these are the players that I talked about. So far, the players in recap, the players that have been winning the offseason so far to me, and they have to keep it up going into July when we're talking about training camp: George Pickens, Kyrie Elam, Miles Sanders, Joe Milton, Elijah Clark, undrafted free agent from Syracuse, Jalen Tolbert, Jake Ferguson, Beverly Spanford, Tyler Guyton are guys that have been winning the offseason so far for me. That's it for the video. Hope you guys have a nice day. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye.